Hi, and welcome to our instructional video that is designed to make you a smarter gambler. My name is Steve Borey, and I'm the author of the American Casino Guide, which is the #1 best-selling book in the U.S. on the subject of casino gambling and travel, and the only book that comes with more than $1,000 in casino coupons. If you want to know more about the book, be sure to visit our website at americancasinoguide.com. And if you have an iPhone or iPad, be sure to download our free app. Just go to the App Store and search for American Casino Guide. In this video, Michael Shackleford, who is also known as the Wizard of Odds and the author of Gambling 102, explains all about Ultimate Texas Hold'em. He tells you how the game is played, the various bets you can make, the casino advantage on those bets, and the best strategy for playing the game before the flop. And now here's Michael Shackleford.
Let's talk about Ultimate Texas Hold'em. This is a poker-based game based on Texas Hold'em poker, but the player plays only against the dealer. The game starts where the player makes an ante-bet and a blind bet. They must be exactly equal, and the player may also make an optional side bet called the trips bet. After the players have made their wagers, the dealer will give each player two whole cards, and deal 5 community cards face down, just like in Texas Hold'em. The player will check his own 2 cards, and at this point may either make a raise bet equal to 4 times his ante-wager, or he may check. If the player does make the raise wager, he's done. He can't do any more raising. Then the dealer will turn over the flop, the first 3 community cards. At this point, if the player has not already made a raise bet, he may do one at this point, but he can only do it for 2 times his ante-bet. Then the dealer will turn over the turn and the river cards, the 4th and the 5th community cards. And at this point, any player who has not already made either raise may either raise 1 time his ante-bet, or he may fold. Then the dealer will turn over his 2 whole cards, and both the player and the dealer will make their best 5-card poker hand out of the 7 cards, and the higher hand will win. The dealer needs to have at least a pair to open. If the dealer does not make at least a pair, the dealer will push back the player's ante-bets, which will automatically push. Then if the dealer does open, or whether or not he opens, the dealer will compare his poker hand to the player's poker hand. The higher one wins. If the player has the higher poker hand, then the raise bet will pay even money. If the dealer has the better hand, the raise will lose. And if the dealer if it's a tie, then it will be a push. Same thing for the ante-bet, assuming that the dealer opened. It pays even money if the player wins. Now the blind bet is a different story. There, it goes by a pay table. If the player has at least a straight and beats the dealer, then the blind bet will pay according to the pay table posted on the table. If the player does not have at least a straight, which is most of the time, then if the player wins, the blind bet will only push. If the dealer wins, the blind bet will lose. So the blind bet obviously is where the dealer's house advantage comes in. Where the player's power comes in is the player has the ability to make a big raise bet early on if he gets a good hand. The house advantage in Ultimate Texas Hold'em, which probably nobody knows perfectly, is 2.18%. That means that for every dollar the player bets on the ante, he can expect to lose 2.18 cents. The trips bet pays based only on the poker value of the player's hand, and to win on the trips bet, the player needs to get at least a 3 of a kind. The usual pay table on the trips bet goes 3, 4, 7, 8, 30, 40, 50. If you see that pay table, which you probably will in a live game, the house advantage on that bet is 3.50%. On some of the units that don't have a live dealer but have a big video screen and you play with against a computer monitor, then they have a stingier pay table that goes 3, 5, 6, 7, 20, 40, 50. That pay table has a house advantage of 6.18%. Next, let's talk about the strategy for Ultimate Texas Hold'em. I'm only going to talk about the strategy for the first decision point because it gets really complicated at the second and the third decision points. At the first decision point, the player is allowed to raise 3 times or 4 times his anti-bet, but the player should never make the small 3x raise, because if he gets a really good hole cards to begin with, he should always make the full 4x raise. Much like if you double down in blackjack, you should never double for less. If you've got a good hand, put out all the money you can out there. Here are the hands where you should make the raise bet after you see your 2 hole cards and before the flop. If you have any pair except deuces, if you have an ace high, if you have unsuited king 5 or better, unsuited queen 8 or better, or unsuited jack 10, if you have a suited king high, if you have a suited queen 6 or better, or a suited jack 8 or better. If you don't have any of those hands that I just said, then you should check, and the dealer will turn over the flop, and then eventually the river in turn. So you may be making one of the smaller raise bets later. The strategy for the second and third decision points are pretty complicated. I have some really complicated strategies on my website that advise on when to do it. However, through the Las Vegas Advisor, they sell strategy cards for Ultimate Texas Hold'em, which is a very concise and powerful strategy, which I highly recommend. I regret I didn't think of this strategy myself, but this is a great strategy available through the Las Vegas Advisor. If you want to know more about me or hundreds of different casino games, it's all on my website, wizardofodds.com, and my book, Gambling 102, has strategies for the most popular casino games.
Don't forget that you can see more of our educational gambling videos on our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/American Casino Guide.